Far beyond the stars humans knew, there existed a galaxy ruled by the Zorathi Empire. Their ships gleamed with light, their cities sparkled on countless planets, and their weapons were unmatched. The Zorathi were not only strong, they were clever, disciplined, and unchallenged. Across the galaxy, every species knew their place. Every world obeyed the Zorathi as if they were gods, and most had never seen them face any true opposition. Emperor Rulon sat on his golden throne in the capital city of Zorath Prime. From his high vantage point, he could see the shining towers and the fleets docked in the starports. Rulon was calm, confident, and proud. He believed the galaxy was under his control, and nothing could change that. Around him sat the council of elites, advisors who had served the empire for centuries. Each council member had earned their place through skill, intelligence, and loyalty. Together they made decisions that shaped the destiny of thousands of planets. On one such planet, the people were busy preparing for the tribute day. Every year, representatives of the Zorathi Empire visited the world to receive gifts, knowledge, and obedience from the local population. Children played in the streets, merchants arranged colorful stalls, and families celebrated the day. Even though they worked hard to maintain their happiness, they all knew the truth. The Zorathi were in charge. Resistance was dangerous, almost impossible, and few dared even think about it. Commander Zara stood on the bridge of the starship Vigilant. She was one of the most skilled officers in the Zorathi fleet. Her silver uniform reflected the light of distant stars as she studied the holographic map of the galaxy. The Council had sent her to patrol the border systems. For years, there had been rumors of unusual activity near the edges of the Empire. Zara was confident nothing could threaten the Zorathi, yet a small part of her felt curiosity. She had heard whispers about strange ships seen far from the core systems, ships unlike any Zorathi vessel. Zara's mind wandered to the stories told by pilots and traders. Some claimed that these ships moved faster than any Zorathi fighter. Others said the ships seemed small, fragile, and yet impossible to destroy. Most dismissed these stories, as Zorathi officers were trained to trust reason and evidence, not rumors. But Commander Zara could not deny a flicker of interest. She thought, perhaps it is time to see these ships for herself. Back on Zorath Prime, the Emperor and his council were reviewing reports from across the Empire. Every report spoke of prosperity and obedience. Worlds were peaceful, trade was flourishing, and no rebellion had succeeded in decades. Rulon smiled, certain that his empire would last for generations. His advisors nodded in agreement. They all shared the same belief. The galaxy would obey the Zorathi forever. On the farthest edge of the Empire, however, life was different. Planets there were quiet and less developed. Many lived simple lives, farming, trading, and exploring. Small star systems. Here, the presence of the Zorathi was lighter, and stories of strange ships were taken more seriously. Fishermen, miners, and small traders often spoke of ships moving with unusual speed and daring moves near asteroid belts. The humans called these ships visitors, though no one knew who they were or where they came from. Captain Lorne, a human, sat quietly in the cockpit of his ship, the Resolute. He looked at the galaxy through the main viewport, stars stretching endlessly. Unlike the Zorathi, he had no large fleets, no massive cities, and no armies to command. What he had was courage, clever thinking, and a ship designed for speed and survival. Lorne had explored many systems, learning about alien cultures, their strengths, and their weaknesses. He knew the Zorathi Empire was powerful, but he also knew that ingenuity and strategy could overcome even the greatest force. As Lorne plotted his next course, he could not imagine the attention his small ship would soon attract. Unknown to him, sensors across the Empire had already picked up his presence. Commander Zara was preparing to investigate. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. a being that would challenge the belief that the Zorathi were gods. In the capital, Emperor Rulon spoke to his council. He was proud, confident, and sure of the Empire's invincibility. He said, "Our rule is complete. No one can oppose us. No one will try." His advisors agreed, smiling with certainty. They did not know that beyond the edge of their maps, a small human ship was moving steadily, unaware of the legends it would soon challenge. The stars were quiet, yet a new story was beginning. A story that would change the galaxy, test the power of the Zorathi, and prove that sometimes courage, skill, and determination could rival even the mightiest empire. Far from the heart of the Zorathi Empire, beyond the systems they controlled tightly, a small ship moved quietly through the void. Its hull was scratched and worn, showing signs of long travel, yet it glowed with resilience and careful design. Captain Lorne sat at the helm, hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the stars. He had no intention of hiding. He only wanted to explore, learn, and observe the Empire without causing unnecessary conflict. Despite its size, the ship drew attention quickly. Sensors on the nearest Zorathi patrol detected its unusual signature. Commander Zara, aboard the Starship Vigilant, noticed the reading immediately. Her eyes narrowed as she examined the data. The vessel was unlike any Zorathi design. Its energy patterns, speed, and navigation were unfamiliar. No warning signals, no identification codes, and yet it moved through the galaxy with purpose. "Prepare for investigation," Zara ordered. Her voice was calm, precise, and authoritative. The officers on her bridge moved quickly, adjusting shields and preparing scanners. Though confident in the Zorathi fleet's superiority, Zara felt a spark of curiosity. Most unusual ships were primitive and easily destroyed. This one, however, seemed different. Something about it did not fit the usual patterns. Lorne, unaware of the Zorathi's scrutiny, continued plotting his course. He passed asteroid fields, small planets and old debris from long-forgotten conflicts. He had studied the Zorathi, learned their strategies, and understood their strengths. But he also understood their weaknesses, their overconfidence, reliance on massive ships, and underestimation of smaller, clever opponents. Lorne smiled slightly. He did not plan to fight. He only needed to prove that humans could act with intelligence and courage, not brute force. Zara's fleet approached the human ship cautiously. "This vessel is approaching our border systems," she said. "We must know its origin and intent." She activated the communication array, sending a standard Zorathi greeting. The voice that replied startled the crew. It was calm, polite, and clear, but it carried no fear or submission. "I am Captain Lorne of the human ship Resolute," the voice said. "I come in peace. I mean no harm to the Zorathi Empire. I wish to observe and learn. I hope we can communicate." The bridge went silent. The Zorathi were accustomed to fear, submission, or coded threats. They had never heard a reply like this. Commander Zara leaned forward, studying the human's words carefully. It was simple, direct, and respectful, yet it carried confidence, a rare quality among the species they had encountered. "Report?" Zara said quietly. Her officers hesitated, unsure how to respond. No human ship had ever reached this far without surrendering. "It shows no signs of aggression, but we cannot ignore it," said one officer. "It could be a scout for a larger force," another added. Zara shook her head. "We will observe. Do not attack unless provoked. Prepare for first contact protocols. I want to see what makes this human different." On board the Resolute, Lorne prepared for possible inspection. His ship had shields strong enough to withstand minor attacks, but he hoped it would not come to that. Humans valued life and diplomacy over violence when possible. He adjusted sensors, activated defensive systems, and prepared to respond carefully. The first meeting occurred near a small asteroid field. Lorne maneuvered his ship skillfully, showing both caution and confidence. The Zorathi fleet circled cautiously, scanning, probing, and analyzing. The humans had technology that was compact, efficient, and adaptable, unlike the Zorathi's large, complex ships. Zara observed every detail, noting speed, shield response, and unusual maneuvers. Impressive, she admitted quietly to herself. She had not expected a ship so small to perform with such control. But still, it is only one ship. It cannot challenge the Empire, Lorne communicated again. I wish only to learn from your galaxy. I admire the strength of the Zorathi. I hope my presence will not cause trouble. Zara considered the human's words. They were polite, but there was no hint of fear. That confidence, combined with skill and strategy, was unlike anything she had seen. She realized this human might challenge more than her curiosity. He might challenge the Empire's belief in invincibility. Back on Zorath Prime, Emperor Rulon received the first reports. He was amused. A small human ship, he said. It cannot be serious. Prepare a welcoming patrol. Ensure it does not cause alarm. He smiled confidently, certain that the Zorathi would remain unchallenged. His advisors agreed. The idea that a single human could pose a problem seemed impossible. Yet, as the human ship moved steadily through the border systems, whispers began to rise among the lower fleets. Pilots and engineers spoke in quiet voices. They had seen a small, fast ship dodge attacks, respond with precision, and maneuver in ways no Zorathi vessel could. While no one feared for their empire, curiosity mixed with awe. Something was different about this visitor. Captain Lorne did not seek fame or glory. He only wanted to explore, to observe, and to act with wisdom. Yet the galaxy had already begun noticing him. His arrival, simple and quiet, marked the beginning of a change that would ripple across stars, systems, and hearts. Even the Zorathi, confident as they were, felt a new sensation, curiosity and caution. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The human ship Resolute glided quietly through the outer system, moving with steady purpose. Captain Lorne studied the star charts carefully, noting the positions of nearby planets, asteroid fields, and Zorathi patrols. Despite the vastness of space, he knew that attention was already on him. The Zorathi Empire rarely ignored anything that moved near its borders. Commander Zara and her fleet continued to follow the human ship at a cautious distance. She had spent hours observing its movements, scanning every system and noting every reaction. The more she watched, the more puzzled she became. The Resolute was small and simple compared to the Zorathi warships, yet it moved with precision that no ordinary pilot could match. Its shields absorbed energy differently. Its maneuvers were unpredictable, and its weapons systems seemed highly efficient. This human, Zara said quietly, is unlike any species we have encountered. It does not fear us. It does not submit, and yet it does not attack. Why? Her officers looked at her uncertainly. Most had never considered that a species could be so confident and so skilled without showing aggression. Lorne prepared for the first official communication with the Zorathi. He activated the ship's universal translator and opened a channel. The bridge of the Vigilant lit with holographic icons, displaying the small human vessel. Commander Zara took a deep breath and responded. I am Commander Zara of the Zorathi. Empire, she said firmly. State your purpose. You are within the territory of the Zorathi. You must explain yourself. Captain Lorne's voice was calm, steady, and polite. I am Captain Lorne of the human ship Resolute. I come in peace. I mean no harm to your empire. My purpose is to explore, to learn, and to observe. I seek understanding, not conflict. The crew of the Vigilant exchanged glances. No species had ever spoken to the Zorathi like this. No one had ever spoken without fear or hesitation. Lorne's words carried respect, but also confidence, a combination that was unusual. Zara's eyes narrowed as she studied the human. "You speak as if you are equal to the Zorathi. Do you not know who we are?" she asked sharply. "I know you are powerful," Lorne replied. "I know the galaxy respects your strength, but power alone does not make one perfect or invincible. Humans have learned to use intelligence, courage, and strategy to overcome challenges. I seek to learn from your world and to show that even small beings can act with purpose." A murmur ran through the Zorathi officers. Some looked shocked, others intrigued. Zara felt a mix of irritation and curiosity. She had been trained to believe that no species could address the Zorathi without fear, and yet here was a human, calm and clear, questioning the very foundation of their empire. "Your words are bold," Zara said slowly. "Most would not dare speak them." Lorne smiled faintly. "Boldness is not the same as arrogance. I speak truthfully. I do not seek to conquer, only to understand. I hope you will allow me passage through your system without conflict." Zara considered his words carefully. Her fleet had the power to destroy his ship in moments, yet she hesitated. Something about the human's manner suggested intelligence. Beyond what they expected, she decided to test him, but not with force. "Very well," she said. "You may continue, but be warned. We will watch you closely. Any act against the Zorathi will be met with immediate response." Lorne nodded. "Understood. I will respect your authority while I am in your territory." As the ships separated slightly, Zara's thoughts were restless. She could not ignore the feeling that the galaxy was changing. One small human ship had already altered the calm of her fleet. If this human could move through the Empire without fear, what would happen next? On the Resolute, Lorne activated the observation sensors. He studied the Zorathi vessels, their movements, and their reactions. He noted their precision, their strength, and their overconfidence. The humans had no illusion about the Empire's power, but they had hope in their abilities, in their knowledge, and in their determination to act wisely. Over the next hours, Lorne and Zara exchanged more messages. They discussed navigation, the planets in the system, and the different species under Zorathi control. Lorne asked questions about the Empire's governance, its fleets, and its strategies. Zara responded, carefully revealing only what she thought was safe. Yet, each interaction built a small understanding between the two beings, a recognition that neither had expected. Some Zorathi officers whispered quietly among themselves. "This human is clever," one said. "He may not be a threat now, but his mind is sharp." "Yes," another replied. "And confidence like this, it is unusual. We have never faced it before." By the end of the first day of contact, both ships had learned much. Lorne had shown that humans could face the galaxy's might without fear. Zara had seen that even a small species could act with skill, strategy, and courage. Neither fully understood the full consequences, but both sensed that this meeting was only the beginning. For the Zorathi, it was the first time doubt had touched their certainty. For the human, it was the first step in showing the galaxy that even the most powerful empire could be challenged not with force, but with intelligence, courage, and determination. The stars shone quietly around them, indifferent to the meeting below. Yet among those stars, a small human ship and a fleet of Zorathi vessels began a story that would ripple across the galaxy, changing beliefs, testing power, and reshaping the future forever. The human ship Resolute moved steadily through the outer reaches of the Zorathi Empire. Captain Lorne had studied the nearby systems carefully. He knew many planets under Zorathi control were quiet, but not happy. Life under the Empire was orderly, safe, and efficient. Yet the people lacked freedom. Decisions were made far away, and ordinary citizens had little voice. Lorne wanted to show them that courage and intelligence could make a difference. Commander Zara's fleet continued to observe, him keeping a cautious distance. The officers on the bridge of the Vigilant had begun to discuss the human in whispers. His confidence, his calm actions, and his clever maneuvers had created curiosity and unease. No human had ever acted so boldly near the borders of the Empire. And yet there was no aggression. On a small industrial planet, the Zorathi maintained strict control. Factories produced energy cores, weapons, and ships for the Empire. The workers followed orders but quietly hoped for a chance to live more freely. When Captain Lorne's sensors detected the planet's distress, he made a decision. He would intervene, not with force, but with clever strategy. Lorne's ship glided into orbit above the planet. He used the asteroid belt nearby as cover, hiding from the main patrol ships. His plan was simple: disrupt the oppressive systems temporarily, show the people that resistance was possible, and leave before the Empire could respond fully. He activated his ship's tools and carefully sent instructions to disable the surveillance grids, shut down certain power nodes, and create confusion among the Zorathi officials on the surface. Down below, alarms began to ring. Officials rushed to control the systems, only to find that they were locked out. The citizens watched in surprise as the oppressive measures paused, the factories slowed, and small displays of freedom appeared. Some workers stepped outside, looking at the stars with hope. No human had set foot on their planet, yet one had already shown them a new way to think. Commander Zara detected the disturbances immediately. She activated her fleet and called in reinforcements. "Identify the cause," she ordered. "No ship can act against us without consequence." Lorne's ship moved carefully, avoiding patrols and using speed and maneuverability to stay out of reach. He did not attack the Zorathi directly. His goal was to teach, not to destroy. Every move he made was calculated, every path chosen to minimize danger and maximize impact. As the hours passed, whispers began among the Zorathi citizens. They had always believed the Empire was untouchable. Now, for the first time, they saw that the powerful Zorathi could be challenged, not by massive fleets, but by skill, intelligence, and courage. Farmers, workers, and traders began to talk quietly about the human ship and the daring actions it had taken. On the bridge of the Vigilant, Commander Zara grew more curious and more uneasy. "He is clever," she admitted. "He does not attack, yet he forces change. How does a single human achieve what thousands of our forces cannot?" Her officers had no answer. They had never seen strategy like this applied so calmly and so effectively. Meanwhile, Lorne's actions spread across neighboring systems. Other planets began to notice subtle changes. Communications intercepted by Zorathi patrols spoke of hope and possibility. "If a human can do this, maybe we can too," citizens whispered. Lorne did not speak to them directly, but his actions inspired thought, courage, and the belief that resistance was possible. When the Zorathi fleet arrived, Lorne had already moved to a safe orbit. Commander Zara approached him cautiously, activating the communication link. "Human," she said, "you have caused disruption without attack. Explain yourself. Why do you challenge us?" "I do not wish to challenge the Empire," Lorne replied. "I only wish to show that freedom and courage matter. Systems can work better when people have choices. I mean no harm to the Zorathi or your people. My actions are to inspire thought, not conflict." Zara studied him silently. His words were calm, honest, and logical. She had expected arrogance, fear, or desperation. Instead, she found respect and confidence. Her belief in the Empire's invincibility felt challenged for the first time. By the end of the day, Lorne left the planet quietly. The citizens watched from their windows and rooftops as the small human ship disappeared into space. The changes he had made were subtle, but powerful. Systems paused, officials were uncertain, and hope stirred in hearts that had not dared to dream. In the Empire, News of the event spread quickly. Rumors of a human ship that challenged Zorathi control without firing a weapon reached Emperor Rulon. At first, he laughed. A single human could not possibly affect the galaxy. Yet as reports continued to arrive, he frowned. Curiosity and a small shadow of concern entered his thoughts. Perhaps the human was different. Perhaps the galaxy was about to learn that even the mightiest empire could be questioned by a clever and determined species. The stars were quiet again, but the galaxy had already begun to change. A single human ship had arrived, and with it, a challenge that would grow stronger, testing courage, intelligence, and the very belief in the Zorathi as gods. Emperor Rulon sat in his high chamber on Zorath Prime, his golden robes reflecting the soft glow of the city's lights. Reports from the outer systems had grown urgent. A single human ship, small and seemingly insignificant, had caused disruptions on a controlled planet. Factories slowed, surveillance systems failed, and citizens dared to look at the stars and dream of freedom. Rulon's advisors hurried into the chamber, bowing and speaking quickly. "This human ship is unlike anything we have seen, Your Majesty," one advisor said. "It does not attack, yet it forces change. It moves with precision beyond ordinary skill." Rulon's eyes narrowed. "Impossible," he said, his voice low but firm. "No single vessel can challenge the Zorathi Empire. Prepare the fleets. Send every available squadron. I want this human found, stopped, and understood." Commander Zara received the orders with mixed feelings. On one hand, she understood the need for action. On the other, she felt a strange curiosity about the human. Lorne had acted without aggression, with skill and intelligence. He had disrupted a system without destruction, and yet had shown the Zorathi that even a small force could be clever and effective. She respected his tactics even as she prepared to confront him. The Zorathi fleet moved with swift precision, stretching across the space near the border systems. Hundreds of ships formed a vast network, scanning, probing, and preparing for battle. Every officer knew their duty. The Zorathi Empire had never failed in maintaining control. A single human could not change that. Captain Lorne, aboard the Resolute, monitored the approaching fleet. He remained calm, his hands steady on the controls. He had studied the Zorathi carefully, learning their patterns, their strategies, and their weaknesses. He had no desire to fight unnecessarily, but he knew that the fleet would not ignore him. Lorne activated his ship's defensive systems and calculated several possible escape routes. Each movement, each adjustment, was designed to demonstrate skill without provoking unnecessary destruction. The first encounter came near a cluster of asteroids. Zorathi ships surrounded the Resolute, their weapons powered and shields active. Commander Zara opened a communication channel. "Human," she said, "you are surrounded. Surrender and explain yourself. Resistance is futile." Lorne's voice was steady. "I do not seek conflict. I will not surrender. I act to show that courage, intelligence, and planning can achieve results. I wish no harm, but I cannot ignore injustice where it exists." Zara's officers murmured among themselves. No human had ever spoken to the Zorathi this way. There was confidence, but not arrogance. There was strategy, but not recklessness. The human's words carried authority, and yet they revealed no threat beyond intelligence and purpose. The fleet moved to block the human's path, testing tactics, scanning systems, and trying to predict his maneuvers. Lorne responded quickly, adjusting shields, changing velocity, and navigating with precision through the asteroid field. Every movement displayed skill, every action avoided destruction, and every decision challenged the Zorathi assumption that size and power were everything. "Impossible," an officer whispered. "How does a single ship move like that? How does it evade so easily?" Zara observed silently. She admired his skill, but she could not ignore her duty. "This human is Clever, she admitted to herself. But cleverness alone will not defeat the Empire. She ordered her fleet to tighten the perimeter, hoping to corner him without causing unnecessary damage. Lorne continued to maneuver, using the environment to his advantage. He did not attack, yet he demonstrated the flaws in the Zorathi strategy. The fleet had the numbers and the power, but they had not anticipated his intelligence and adaptability. For the first time, the Zorathi realized that strength alone could not guarantee control. Reports of the encounter quickly reached Zorath Prime. Emperor Rulon listened in silence as his advisors described the human skill. "A single vessel has exposed weaknesses in our fleet?" he asked sharply. "We are the Zorathi. Nothing should be able to challenge us. Increase the forces. Send the fastest ships. I want this human stopped immediately." Even as new squadrons moved toward the human, Lorne calculated every possibility. He planned maneuvers that would avoid unnecessary damage, protect his ship, and continue demonstrating that courage and intelligence could overcome force. Every action was precise, measured, and careful. The encounter ended without direct combat, yet its impact was immediate. The Zorathi fleet withdrew temporarily, uncertain and cautious. Officers reported to their superiors that the human ship had proven to be more than a curiosity. It was clever, adaptable, and fearless. Commander Zara remained thoughtful. She had learned something new about strategy, about courage, and about the strength of small but determined beings. Lorne had shown her and the fleet that even the most powerful empire could face challenges it had not predicted. As the human ship moved away from the asteroid cluster, Captain Lorne glanced at the stars. He knew the Zorathi would continue to pursue him, but he also knew he had achieved something important. He had shown that skill, courage, and intelligence could match power, and that even the smallest force could inspire change. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Citizens of Zorathi-controlled worlds began to notice subtle changes. Rumors of the human ship's cleverness, courage, and skill reached those who had never dared to hope. Even the most loyal subjects of the Empire began to question the belief that the Zorathi were untouchable. The stars remained silent witnesses to the encounter, yet the galaxy had begun to shift. A single human ship had proven that intelligence, courage, and strategy could challenge power. And the Empire, confident as it was, had begun to feel the first stirrings of doubt. The human ship, resolute, moved steadily through the systems at the edge of the Zorathi Empire. Captain Lorne had no illusions about the Empire's strength. Its fleets were vast, its technology advanced, and its control nearly complete. Yet he had discovered something important. The Zorathi were confident, but they relied heavily on fear and obedience. Where courage, intelligence, and strategy were used, even a single human could make an impact. On one planet, citizens whispered quietly among themselves. Factories and government buildings had returned to normal after the disruptions Lorne had caused, but the memory lingered. Workers, traders, and children spoke of the strange human who had appeared without fear and had altered their lives without violence. "If a single human can do that," they said, "maybe we can think differently too." Elsewhere, small communities began to discuss plans quietly. They did not speak of war or rebellion yet. They spoke of hope, ideas, and possibilities. Lorne's actions had opened their minds. The galaxy had long been under Zorathi control, and people had rarely dared to question it. Now, with one clever and daring visitor, they realized that power was not absolute. Commander Zara watched these changes from her ship. She had continued to track the Resolute and had reported her observations to Emperor Rulon. The Emperor remained confident, sending additional fleets and patrols. Yet Zara noticed subtle signs among the crews. Officers and pilots who had once believed fully in the Empire's invincibility now spoke quietly about the human's skill and courage. Doubt had begun to spread where certainty had ruled before. Lorne's ship approached a trade hub, a central point connecting several systems. The Zorathi had maintained strict control here for decades, yet when the Resolute appeared in orbit, subtle changes began. Communications were intercepted, alarms were misdirected, and ships moved more slowly than expected. Lorne had no desire to attack or conquer. His goal was to inspire, to demonstrate that intelligence and courage could affect even the most controlled systems. He sent messages to local leaders, offering guidance and suggestions without revealing his full identity. "Your systems can work better when people are prepared and organized," he said. "I do not wish to harm the Zorathi, but I want you to see that choice, planning, and cooperation matter. Change is possible if you act wisely." Below, citizens quietly followed the guidance. Systems improved, conflicts were avoided, and small successes spread hope. For the first time, ordinary beings felt they had influence over their own lives. They had not been forced to act with weapons or fear. They had been inspired by intelligence, courage, and careful planning. The Zorathi fleets observed these changes with growing unease. Reports reached Emperor Rulon. "A single human is inspiring action across multiple systems," his advisors said. "People are thinking, organizing, and questioning our control. This is unusual." Rulon frowned. "Impossible," he said sharply. "Our empire is too strong to be challenged by one ship." Yet even as he spoke, he could not deny the reports. The humans were showing a new kind of strength, one that relied on intelligence, courage, and strategy instead of sheer force. Commander Zara felt conflicted. On one hand, she was loyal to the Empire and proud of its power. On the other, she had seen the human act with precision, wisdom, and respect. Lorne did not attack or destroy. He changed the galaxy through ideas and careful action. She realized that perhaps the Zorathi had underestimated the importance of these qualities. Across the galaxy, systems that had been quiet began to communicate. Messages of hope and clever strategies spread. Leaders of minor planets began to test the ideas Lorne had shared. People began to believe that cooperation, intelligence, and courage could matter more than fear. The change was subtle but powerful. No one had overthrown the Zorathi, yet the foundation of control had shifted. Ordinary beings began to see that the Empire was not invincible. Fear alone could not ensure obedience. Strategy, cleverness, and courage had value, and one human had shown it to the galaxy. Captain Lorne continued his journey calmly, aware of the growing influence he had created. He did not seek glory or recognition. He sought to demonstrate a principle. Intelligence, courage, and thoughtful action could challenge even the greatest powers. His presence alone had begun to awaken the galaxy to new possibilities. Commander Zara watched silently, realizing that she had witnessed the first step in a shift that would continue to grow. The Empire's strength remained vast, but the belief that power alone ruled all had begun to crack. A single human ship had demonstrated that even in a galaxy ruled by gods, courage and intelligence could inspire change. As the stars passed by, the galaxy felt a new energy. Citizens of many worlds whispered of possibilities, officers questioned certainty, and even Emperor Rulon could not ignore that a new force, human ingenuity and courage, was reshaping the future. The age of unquestioned obedience was ending, and a new era was quietly beginning. The galaxy had changed. A single human ship, the Resolute, had moved quietly through the systems at the edge of the Zorathi Empire, and its presence had awakened thought, courage, and hope. Captain Lorne had not sought glory or conquest, yet his actions had inspired countless beings across many planets. Citizens who had once lived under fear now questioned what it meant to obey blindly. Leaders began to consider new ways to guide their people. Emperor Rulon sat in his grand chamber on Zorath Prime, listening to reports that filled him with a mixture of pride, disbelief, and unease. The human had not attacked, yet the ripple effect of its actions was undeniable. The Empire had faced many challenges over centuries, but none like this. Citizens across the galaxy were beginning to think independently. Some were organizing trade, others were planning local governance, and many simply shared ideas with their neighbors. The fabric of control was subtly but steadily shifting. Rulon called for his council. "This human has changed things without firing a weapon," he said. "We cannot ignore it. We must understand what it has done and decide how to respond. Strategy alone will not be enough if the galaxy begins to think for itself." Commander Zara, standing near the Emperor, spoke with quiet respect. "Your Majesty, the human is clever, disciplined, and calm. It does not seek conflict, yet it has shown that intelligence and courage can inspire change. Perhaps it is time to consider a new approach rather than rely solely on force." Rulon considered her words. He had always believed that the Empire's power rested on technology, fleets, and strict obedience. Now he realized that true influence required understanding, negotiation, and trust as well. "Perhaps," he admitted, "we have underestimated the strength of courage and thought. The galaxy will not obey gods forever. It responds to reason and inspiration as well." Meanwhile, Captain Lorne continued his journey quietly. His ship moved from system to system, observing, learning, and leaving small hints of strategy for those who sought freedom without chaos. He offered guidance where it was needed, showing planets how to organize, defend, and cooperate. He never used weapons unnecessarily, for his strength was not in destruction, but in example. Across the galaxy, citizens began to act with a new sense of purpose. On planets that had once been silent under Zorathi rule, farmers organized trade, networks, engineers developed new systems for energy and communication, and teachers encouraged young minds to think creatively. The galaxy was waking from a long period of unquestioned obedience. People learned that they could achieve progress, maintain order, and protect themselves without fear of punishment. Zorathi officers observed these changes with growing awareness. The fleets were still powerful, the cities still advanced, but the belief in absolute control was shifting. They realized that power alone could no longer define leadership. Influence could now come from intelligence, courage, and inspiration, qualities that a single human had demonstrated across the stars. Commander Zara reflected on what she had witnessed. "We have always relied on strength," she said quietly. "Yet one human has shown that even the smallest force, guided by thought and courage, can inspire change. Perhaps we must learn from this as well." Rulon, thoughtful for the first time in decades, agreed. "The Empire will remain strong," he said, "but we will need more than ships and weapons. We must understand the people we govern. Strength and fear alone will not be enough." The human ship eventually disappeared from the outer systems, leaving behind ideas, inspiration, and hope. Citizens continued to build, explore, and act with the courage Lorne had demonstrated. They did not seek war, only progress and understanding. The galaxy had begun to realize that obedience to fear was temporary, but respect for intelligence, bravery, and wisdom could endure. Even as fleets patrolled the stars and cities gleamed with power, the galaxy had entered a new era. The Zorathi Empire remained, but it had changed. Leaders began to listen more, officers began to teach rather than only enforce, and citizens began to believe in their own potential. A single human ship had reminded them that greatness was not always measured by fleets, weapons, or domination, but by courage, strategy, and the ability to inspire others. Captain Lorne looked out from the Resolute, gazing at the stars stretching endlessly before him. He had not sought recognition, yet he had changed the galaxy. He knew that other challenges would come, other systems would need guidance, and the Empire would continue to test limits. But he also knew that one small ship, guided by courage, intelligence, and thought could make a difference anywhere. As the stars twinkled quietly around him, the galaxy embraced a new understanding. Power alone could not command loyalty forever. Inspiration, strategy, and courage mattered just as much. And from the edge of the empire to its core, beings everywhere began to see a future shaped not only by gods, but by those brave enough to act wisely and boldly. A new era had begun, one where strength was measured not only by fleets or weapons, but by the courage to act, the wisdom to plan, and the ability to inspire hope. The galaxy had changed, and it would never be the same again.